HR wears many different hats, as you know. And so when someone sets out on a journey to be a human resources professional, you have to think, what exactly is it that HR does again? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the numerous roles that HR actually plays in an organization. Coming up. Hi there, my name is Janica, and I am here to help you navigate the HR space. And we're just having a little chat today because we want to talk about HR and we want to talk about the numerous roles and responsibilities that HR has. Now, I've read a lot of other articles and they're kind of reducing it down to like 5 roles that HR plays. But honestly, I counted like over 10. I believe I have like 12 on my list. So let's start with payroll. So payroll is one of those things where everybody knows about because everybody wants to get paid. Payroll department is responsible for making sure those checks are rendered to the employees on a regular cycle. They are responsible for the taxes and making sure the proper withholdings occur. They are also responsible for auditing and making sure that all the general ledgers and all of the other wonderful stuff aligns with the accounting department, anything that the company is responsible for when it comes to processing that payroll. Now we're going to move on to benefits. As you know, benefits administrators are responsible for assuring that the employees are enrolled in the plan, especially when they are eligible. They are responsible for making sure that those benefit files get sent over to the carrier. And if there's any errors or anything like that occur, they are responsible for making sure that all errors are corrected. They are also responsible for reporting to the IRS the amount of dollars an employer has contributed to the benefit plan. So if you're thinking about getting into benefits, think about all of the wonderful things that go along with benefit administration. Let's talk about compensation, because compensation is sometimes compensation and benefits are combined together, or sometimes companies put compensation and payroll together, which I don't know why they would do that. But compensation alone is just making sure that each employee and each job description aligns with what the market rate is for that particular position. Compensation is also responsible for analyzing and making sure that everyone is receiving the right amount of pay and that each role does not vary significantly across the entire organization. So they have to complete a lot of analysis, not only in the market, what's going on internationally, nationally, or locally, but also within the organization. So they want to make sure that those pay grades are in place and that they are fair. I want to talk about also employee wellness. So employee wellness is another thing that has another initiative that has really popped up here lately in the past 5 or so years. There's been a huge focus on making sure that the employees receive the right amount of emotional support as well as physical support. So you have some companies that sponsor yoga sessions and breathing sessions and making sure that the whole employee is taken care of and not burning out and getting emotionally drained in their career path. So wellness is really cool if you like interacting with the employees and if you really like searching for and maintaining those programs that assures the overall well-being of the employee. Rewards and recognition is another part of human resources. And for rewards and recognition, you want to make sure that the employees are rewarded and recognized for the work that they do and the work that they contribute to the organization. Say like an employee has reached a very important milestone in their career, or they achieved something that saved the organization tens of thousands, if not millions of dollars, you want to make sure that the employees are recognized for that. So rewards and recognition, you would see that mostly like a dedicated role within like a larger organization. However, smaller organizations can definitely have a program as well. And they just won't have like a dedicated person that's doing that all day. I've seen some of these programs roll out in the form of like gift certificates, bonuses, and things like that. So there's a lot of different spins that you can put on the rewards and recognition systems. It just all depends on the company. Employee relations, also known as ER, is responsible for assuring that the employees are taken care of throughout the organization. ER sometimes receives formalized complaints. They do the investigations. They make sure that if your organization actually has a union, they want to make sure that the rules are being followed within the guidelines that the union has outlined. And they are overall responsible for making sure that a resolution has been reached with all of the investigations and complaints that have been filed. So there's a lot of standards to follow when it comes to this, and it's going to segue me into compliance. And you will hear this word compliance used quite a bit in HR because a lot of organizations want to make sure that they are in compliance with the law, with the Department of Labor, with OSHA, with wages and hours. They want to make sure that they are in compliance. They're doing things the right way. They are collecting information from the Form I-9s, the W-2s, and all of that stuff. So compliance has a huge umbrella underneath of that. They are responsible for managing the risk within the organization. Not all companies will have a dedicated compliance department. This is something that they kind of leave up to the attorneys, or you'll see larger organizations bring in a full-time attorney to just manage the compliance section or the compliance duties of the HR department. All in all, this person is responsible for doing a lot of research and making sure that if anything happens within the organization, any actions taken, so your promotions, your demotions, your terminations, your hiring practices, they want to make sure that all of that stuff is in compliance. All right, next up is safety. Want to make sure that the employees are safe. So when you're in this role as a safety person, there is a lot of responsibility of making sure that the employees have the things that they need to do their jobs in a safe manner. Safety alone in itself is such an awesome opportunity. If you ever get a chance to talk to someone in the safety field, do so. I mean, they're a wealth of knowledge, and there's so much information that you can get from like the OSHA website to just learn more about how important it is to have safety within your organization. Talent management is another role within the human resources profession. And so talent management tends to be an umbrella within itself. So when I say talent management, I mean anything making sure that the employees have all of the training and the materials that they need in order to do their jobs. But talent management has a tendency to be allowing an employee to grow within their department, within their role, and that they have all of the necessary materials that they need to be successful. This can also include any sort of training, certificates, certifications, or anything like that that really helps them flourish within their existing department. So I'm going to combine these two: training and development, also known as learning and development, depending on the organization that you're in. These individuals are responsible for making sure that all of the training materials are given to the employees and is readily and available for the staff to have. Say, for example, you have certain states that requires harassment training or safety training. those individuals that are within the L&D or T&D roles, they are responsible for making sure that the videos, the pamphlets, the materials, and all of that stuff is handed out and available to the staff. They are also responsible for keeping track of who completes those trainings. So then at the end of the year, it could go towards some sort of a point system or merit system or reward system. This is a very interesting role as well. All right, so let's talk about recruiting. Even though I probably should have made this at the top of the list, recruiting is something that everybody really knows about. Recruiting and sourcing are the individuals who are responsible for seeking out talent and identifying talent and finding those individuals who are best suited for a role. The recruiter has to call up the candidates, read over those resumes, perform the skills assessments and the background checks and all that wonderful stuff to make sure that they are a good fit for the organization. And the day in the life of a recruiter is very busy, and they are always on their toes, and there's very little wiggle room for being lazy in this role. You have to be a go-getter. You have to be a person who is very persistent with your candidates, because you're going to be dealing with all kinds of candidates from all walks of life. Some of them don't want to show up for the interview. Some of them don't want to accept the offer. I mean, there's so many things. I could probably definitely make another video just on recruiting alone, but recruiting is a part of the human resources function as well, especially in smaller organizations. But in larger organizations, you'll see the recruiting role kind of section off to themselves. So another role within HR is performance management. And many times the performance management professional will be responsible for setting up the rating scales and collecting that data throughout the year for the staff. So you'll see like a common scorecard would be meets expectations, exceeds expectations, or they need additional work to do in order to get better at doing their job. And so we see sometimes that performance management can be linked directly to the compensation that an employee gets. Maybe they will not qualify for a merit increase or a bonus at the end of the year because it's tied to their performance. So that's another role to consider when you're looking into getting into HR, and underneath of that HR umbrella is performance management. Business partner is a relatively new role that has popped up in the last 10 or so years. I mean, probably less than 10 years. And I'm seeing a lot of HR BP type of positions that have been opened up, mostly in large organizations who are looking for that strategic HR person, someone who is responsible for building those strategic relationships in between the employees and the executive suite. They can have a lot of hats associated with them, so that's definitely something that you want to look into if you are considering the business side of the house. Workforce planning is also a part of the HR umbrella. And so within this role, the workforce planner is responsible for making sure there's enough personnel to perform certain tasks within the organization. And you'll also see in this role that they are responsible for whenever mergers or acquisitions occur. They want to make sure that they don't lose too many or they don't take on too many employees whenever changes occur within the organization. They will also work hand in hand with the analysis and compensation departments to make sure that there is a budget. And they also work with the HRBPs as well as business partners, just to make sure that everything is in place whenever any changes happen within the organization. Now, I have seen many times where this particular role actually goes along with change management. They can kind of be used interchangeably depending on the organization. So change management is also responsible for any changes that occur within the organization. So it's pretty much self-explanatory type of role. So mergers, acquisitions, if the company decides to fold all together, they want to make sure that the employees have a place to go, that the employees have a set path, and all of that stuff that goes along with when a company finally decides to close their doors altogether. So DEI, also known as diversity and inclusion specialists, these are individuals that are responsible for making sure that the company is in compliance and assures that no one is being discriminated against by their race, sex, or anything like that. They also are responsible for helping the company create a more welcoming environment, whether it's through training, and you see a lot of times they work hand in hand with the training departments and the development departments to make sure that they are all in compliance with the rules that are associated with discriminatory practices and how the company can avoid the risk associated with discriminating against people based on sex, race, sexual origin, or anything of that nature. When you have a D&I professional, someone who is dedicated to that function, it is a good way to stay on top of all that stuff. Now, your compliance department as well should be in the loop on those things. So those two should be working hand in hand. But I do see how DEI can easily be a hybrid in between compliance and training as well. All right, so let's move on to analysis. You will find in larger organizations that HR analytics or personnel analytics or people analytics is being used. Now, in the past, data analysis used to be only for your statisticians and for those who are used to building dashboards and analyzing all of the data that exists in many different systems. However, you can perform data analysis in any size organization. It's just that in the bigger corporations, they have a dedicated HR analyst who is responsible for collecting that data. Some of the analysis that they perform is turnover rates, as well as any hiring, terminations, the results from recruiting campaigns, and budgetary information and how the company can improve on certain things. If the company has been in trouble in the past, the data analyst is responsible for identifying those issues or predicting that issues will happen in the future. So that is another very interesting role for those who are intrigued by analytics. Another role is surveys and feedback. Now, a lot of times you will have a dedicated individual who's responsible for creating questionnaires, surveys, and requesting feedback from the staff. This could be something that is a part of an overall project where the company is trying to make changes, where they realize that their wages are not competitive, or they have experienced a whole lot of turnover and they want to start to take a deep dive into the data that's being collected. And so that's when they have a dedicated person to launch these surveys to get that feedback. Now, a person who is dedicated to getting this is also responsible for analyzing that data and creating some sort of a graph or presentation for the executive team so those issues can be identified and addressed, and a strategy can be created to address that issue and prevent any further issues from occurring in the future. So last but not least are your HRIS specialists. Now, these could come in the form of an HCM analyst, HRIS analyst, those who specialize on numerous systems within the organization that affect the employee. So your HCMs like your PeopleSoft, Workday, Bamboo HR, People Strategy, Jazz HR, anything that really houses the employee information and their data, The HRIS analyst is responsible for making sure that the system is in compliance and that the data is being handled with the highest confidentiality and integrity. Anything that goes wrong with the system, they are responsible for serving as an IT support for the individuals within the organization, and they are responsible for making sure that no one gets unauthorized access to the system. So this is a very critical position, as we see a lot of organizations are utilizing various types of technology within their organization. And unfortunately, sometimes there's a lot of employee data and a lot of different systems that creates a whole lot of silos for data. Now, anyone who is an HRIS analyst or someone who is in this role is responsible for making sure that all of that data remains safe. This is another really cool role within the HR umbrella. Tell me, which one of these roles are most interesting to you? Do you see yourself working in the role? Or if you're currently working in any of these roles with any size organization, I would love to hear more about your experience and any feedback that you would like to add to the community here on YouTube. So if you like what you've heard, click subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.